Hi everyone, this is Jim. Welcome to this postmortem of my Blitz game number 689. I had white pieces and kicked off with c4, the English opening. So my opponent goes for a what looks like it might be a symmetrical setup. He starts with g6, I go g3, but it's not really his idea. What he's doing is he's playing a fianchetto. Let's see, I go knight c3, he goes knight f6, bishop g2, and then he plays d6. So a symmetrical would have c5 in here. Actually, well, maybe I have to take it back. He does eventually play c5, so I guess this is a type of symmetrical English. Anyway, he takes his time getting into the symmetrical setup here, and I go ahead and play the Botvinnik system with the early d4. Let's back up and see. E4 rather. Yeah, okay, e4 is still one of the main moves here. The Botvinnik setup is not the most popular way of playing the English, but it's a very interesting way of playing, I think, and you can easily get into it. There's not too many setups that black has that really fight directly against it. And it seems to give some slight edge to white with a solid center and a lot of flexibility to play either on the king side or the queen side. So I've grown fond of it, I guess I should say, since I learned to play it a couple of years ago. Let's see, black castles here. I play knight to e2. That's the idea with this setup. Keep the knight out of the way of the bishop. It looks like the bishop is blocked in behind the pawn chain, but it turns out these pawns are going to be pretty flexible in being pushed forward. It looks like a rigid structure at first, but often the f-pawn will go forward and the center will explode in one way or another, or open up rather. Okay, so c5. So I guess at this point we have a symmetrical English. My castle, he goes knight to c6, and d3 is a normal move here. I played a3, probably not necessary. If I played d3, then his move knight to b4, which a3 prevents, doesn't carry any threats. It's a little annoying now, the idea of knight to b4 to d3, but again, I could wait for him to play that. Or if I've already played d3, then it's not a problem. Also, I could just wait for him to play that, but it looks like d3 immediately is the main move here. And but a3 prepares for b4 and expanding on the queen side, which is one of the ideas here. So it's not entirely a wasted move. Let's see, he goes bishop g4 here. I block with the f-pawn. And now he goes bishop to e6. So the normal move you saw in the opening book was bishop to d7 and d3, and we'd have this kind of setup, and things would be fine. When he went bishop back to e6 here instead, oh, I went f3, kicking it. He went bishop to e6. It looks normal, I guess, to put a little pressure on this pawn, but this bishop is just awkwardly placed here, and I'm able to exploit that in the game very, very quickly. I just played d3 here to defend my pawn, and now when he goes knight d7 to open up this bishop, this light squared, he opens up the dark squared bishop, but his light squared bishop is stranded, and so I can just gain the bishop pair here. And so I do that immediately, knight f4. I've actually had this happen in over the board games as well. This almost always leads to a good game for white. In this particular case, black could try the move knight to d4 here, and probably should. That way, I mean, I get the bishop pair, but at least he takes back with a knight, and he doesn't suffer the damaged pawns. Let's see. He went bishop d4 check. I moved my king, and then he went knight c to e5, and at this point, I would give this a question mark. Actually, this knight c e5 move, because technically his position deteriorates significantly in the computer evaluation, but it's an obscure reason why it goes down. So I can't really call that a blunder. It just seems like a normal development for the knight there. But let's show what happens. First, I take the bishop. There was no way to stop that at this point. He takes back. And then I played f4, kicking the knight. But the computer line is bishop to h3. And this actually wins a pawn. The best move for black here is just to give up that pawn, which is not at all obvious, because there's a couple ways to defend, but there's also a lot of ways you can't defend. So the bishop is on a dark square, can never defend that pawn. The pawn is blocked in by the knight, so it can't move. That's why the knight on e5 was an inaccurate move. It blocked that pawn. This knight could potentially defend it, but both squares that it would go to defend that pawn are already occupied by black's pieces. So the only two pieces that can defend that pawn are the rook and the king in this position. And if the rook goes up to defend, then bishop to g5 chases the rook away and you win the pawn. So the last option is to defend with the king. You just want to hold on to your material. And here is the computer line that only the chess engine can see far enough to understand why this is such a blunder. I mean, it doesn't look good on the surface. It looks a little awkward, but it doesn't look like it's going to lose. And this move knight e2 doesn't look like it's a particular refutation. But, well, what does black do? Say plays knight to c6, so get out of the way of that pawn so he can push it forward, and then maybe the king will go over to g7 to safety, and everybody will be happy here. I hop in with knight f4, threatening to take that pawn, and if the pawn comes forward to safety now, the knight can come in here to e6, forking the queen and the rook and winning the exchange. So that's why, going back so many moves, that's why knight c to e5 was such a bad move in the chess engine evaluation, was because of that long sequence where eventually I end up with a knight on e6. So kind of amazing. Anyway, the game didn't go that way. Let's see, I took the bishop, he took back, and I just played f4, also a very natural move, and one that keeps an advantage to white. So I've got a solid lead here with the bishop pair and a better pawn structure. So his knight went back to c6, and I'm going to go through these next 10 or 15 moves pretty quickly up to the next mistake, because I keep the edge all the way through here. And in fact, I slowly increase my edge through gradual expansion of the pawns here. And in particular, when I get in this move e5, black's position is losing already, I would say, at this point. So it went from a significant edge to winning in that sequence. But those are pretty normal moves, nothing big going on there. And let's see, I just keep moving my pawns forward. I've just got more space. I've got the bishop pair, and he has this terrible dark squared bishop, which he doesn't seem to have any easy way to liberate. So he tries to activate his queen and open up some lines. I think this is pretty logical play from black up to this point, when I guess he's getting frustrated at always being caught behind this wall of pawns. He decides to go ahead and sacrifice a piece here. The other thought I had was maybe he thought that he would get some pressure. Maybe he thought he was winning this rook, but the rook is adequately defended because I've got a queen and a rook defending it. So even after this line opens up, he's not winning a piece here. I take back with the rook and it's all defended. But what he does get for the piece is he gets an open position and he gets a couple pawns. So let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, he's 2 pawns for the piece. So, but his pawns are not particularly good. But at the moment, my pieces are a little bit uncoordinated. So maybe it wasn't the worst move in the world. It was kind of an interesting way to mix things up. But I'm still winning at this point. And I just have to kind of unwind a little bit, hold on to my pawns, and get all my pieces into a decent configuration. So I start with the queen to d2. I'm defending this pawn, which is under attack, and I'm taking a look at the back rank, maybe coming in if given the opportunity, maybe with the idea of bringing the rook over here to chase the queen off the e-file and put pressure on his doubled e-pawns. He goes queen c5, hitting both of my pawns. I decide I need to defend both of them, which I think is correct. And he plays b5 here, busting them up a little bit. And I should really just take. I don't know why I didn't like it. Well, I guess I didn't like it because it gives black this outside passed pawn, which is potentially dangerous. But, well, with the confidence of the chess engine behind me, I can say that that pawn is not going anywhere. And I have a pretty good position at this point. If he takes with the rook, for example, I can come in here with check. And the king, notice my queen is also on this diagonal, so the king has to go to f7, and I can start throwing my pawns forward. I actually have a mating attack. Well, I can't mate him. I take that back, but I have threats of mating him that will win me some material here. So that's winning. Let's see. The other way you could take back would be with the queen, in which case I can push my c-pawn forward. And notice this bishop is controlling this diagonal, so the queen gets in front of the pawn. I can push it all the way to c6, and now I can threaten to bring my rook in to this 7th rank here, and this is also winning for white without too much difficulty. So when he played b5, I really should have just taken that pawn. Instead, I played rook e1, taking a look at the e-pawns, which, like I said, that had been my idea before, but I really should have changed plans after I saw that b5 move. So he grabs here, and I decided to exchange out. It's probably better to keep the queens on. Queen e3 is a chess engine suggestion, but I was thinking I just go into a simply winning endgame. But actually, it wasn't as simple as I thought. My pieces are still a bit awkwardly placed, and he gets this passed pawn on the c-file. And let's see, and right here I play rook takes e6, which is a blunder. So if you don't remember my comment from the game and you want to try and run a little blunder check, say you're thinking about this move, rook takes e6, and you do a blunder check. Why is that a blunder? Okay, pause the video if you want some time to think about it. I am giving the answer away now. Rook takes e6 is a blunder because he can check. And this is a very common tactic, and something that everyone should recognize almost instantly. The only legal move is to block with the bishop, and that just loses the piece. You know, sometimes this counterattack by the king will gain you something, but here all it gains you is a tempo, so he just moves the rook away. And black is winning. So this one move, rook takes e6, one cautious move, incautious move, changes the balance of the game. So I'm still winning, even though I played in a less than accurate manner. I'm still winning, but that would lose. If he had played rook to b1 check, but he didn't play that. He played rook to c8, so I'm probably just moving too fast. You really need to pause and look for those tactics. And once again, this is a really common pattern. Notice that the way it works is the king is in the corner, and its escape route to the 2nd rank is blocked by the bishop and the pawn, and the bishop can only block at a square, which is 1 square away from the king. So very common pattern. That should be in your memory banks. Okay, let's see. He played rook c8, and so I get to continue on with the winning game at this point. Let's see, I played bishop d5, threatening a discovered check against his king and putting a little pressure on the pawn. He goes king g7. See, I grab this pawn, which is still okay. His king gets into the game, and then let's see, I give one more check. Probably didn't accomplish anything because I have to come back and stop his pawn from coming forward. Let's see. He goes rook c5. I drop my bishop back, and he plays h6, save his pawn. And I go rook c1, getting my rook in front of the pawn. So all this was correctly played by me, and I am still winning here with the piece against the extra pawn. Let's see. King g2 is okay. He goes king e4. This is why, actually, that check that I delivered, it actually helped his king come forward. So I gave him a tempo there, which is important. If my king were one step closer already, then I could be moving over here and blocking his king completely from coming in. So so every tempo counts in an endgame, and although I'm still winning here, I've made my life more difficult. And this move king f2 is actually the turning point, and I'm no longer winning after king f2. I need to play something like bishop to f7, going after this pawn, and not just after the pawn, but also after the idea of getting my rook on this file, and on this diagonal rather. This is still a winning plan for white, although black has a lot of play here, and I have to come over here with my king. Let's see, king. If the king comes into d2, I can check it back. The king has nowhere to go, so that didn't help. Let's see, he could also try rook to c6, hitting the bishop, but the bishop can come here and then be defended by a pawn. So basically, this prevents him from advancing the pawn and gives me time to bring my king over. And so that's how I am still winning here. But I went king f2, he went king d3, and I can still hold this if I play very precisely, but there's only one move, which is rook d1 check. And, well, this is not so easy to see. Typical computer line. King here. Drop the rook back so I can harass the king. Say if the king tries to get out of the way of the pawn, I can continue to check. And I can deliver this check, and I can basically hold things off, but I can't win anymore. But I don't know, maybe there was still a slight edge, I forget. But bishop h7 is actually losing, and he plays this correctly. He goes forward with his king. Well, that's a pretty natural move. Just helping that pawn promote. And now my rook e1 move loses immediately, but other moves lose too. Say rook h1 was the chess engine suggestion, but he's going to queen that pawn now. There's no way to stop it. I can grab a pawn over here. He pushes. I take. He takes with the king. He wants to leave the rook up here. He's going to round up this pawn, which I can't defend because it's on a dark square. And it's a bishop. The end of all this, it'll be a bishop versus a rook. And he has two pawns, and I have two pawns, but his pawns are on opposite sides of the board, it's quite an advantage for the side, especially if he has a rook against a bishop. The rook keeps my king cut off, so I can never stop that pawn with my king. I'm going to have to sacrifice my bishop, and he can mate me with just the rook. He doesn't even need the other pawn. So anyway, that's a pretty easy win as well. But rook e1. And he finds this nice check. Good technique. Just drives my king away from the rook. Picks up that piece. And let's see, I play on a few moves sort of out of inertia, I guess. But it's pretty clear this is a win. I have some extra pawns here, but they're not going to last. He's going to scoop them up, and I really don't have any hope of queening them. So anyway, good game, and I hope you guys enjoyed this. Leave any comments you have in the section below. I'll see you again soon.